Shaquille O'Neal walked into the 2003-04 Los Angeles Lakers season as the most dominant player alive, and the relationship that made him that was already dead. Not dying, dead. Kobe Bryant had spent the summer of 2003 under the weight of a sexual assault allegation in Colorado, and while the legal case eventually collapsed, the Lakers locker room never recovered. By training camp, Shaq and Kobe weren't speaking in full sentences. They were communicating through the media, two all-time greats using press conferences as weapons. And here's what nobody has ever fully answered. Was there a moment, one specific moment, when someone in that organization looked at what they were building and knew it was already over? The front office's response to all of it was insane. They didn't rebuild, they doubled down. They brought in Karl Malone, a future Hall of Famer, chasing the one thing his entire career was missing. Then Gary Payton, another Hall of Famer, same reason. Four of the most decorated players in the history of the sport on one roster, playing for one city under Phil Jackson. On paper, it was the most loaded team ever assembled. Then reality hit. Malone tore his knee in January, gone for the year. Payton, who'd built his entire career on being the alpha, on having the ball in his hands and running the show, was asked to play off the ball, defer to Shaq and Kobe, and accept a supporting role he'd never had in his life. Word around the league was Payton and Phil Jackson barely had a functional relationship by February. Payton thought he was coming to win. He didn't think he was coming to disappear. They still made the finals against Detroit, a Pistons team that had no bona fide superstar, just five guys who played defense like their lives depended on it. And the Lakers lost in 5 games. Shaq averaged 21 and 11, and it wasn't enough because the team around him was fractured beyond repair. That summer, the Lakers traded Shaquille O'Neal to Miami, the greatest center of his generation. Gone. For Lamar Odom and draft picks. The dynasty that should have had 6 rings had 3, and the window closed with 4 Hall of Famers pointing fingers at each other from different area codes. The biggest collection of talent the league had ever seen. 1 ring among them from that season. 0. LeBron James announced the decision on July 8th, 2010, and before the Miami Heat had played a single regular season game, they were the most hated team in America. Not disliked, hated. The celebration at American Airlines Arena, the one with the pyrotechnics and the not 1, not 2, not 3 speech, made it worse. You don't promise 6 championships before you've practiced together. That's not confidence, that's a target. Year 1 in Miami was supposed to be a coronation. LeBron, Dwight Wade, and Chris Bosh, 3 All-Stars, a heat-check duo that had already individually won playoff series, and a system designed by Pat Riley to close out games. Then Dallas happened. Dirk Nowitzki, one man, one motion, step back jumper after step back jumper, dismantled them in 6 games, and LeBron disappeared, not once, repeatedly. In the fourth quarter of close games, the man who was supposed to be the greatest player on earth averaged 8.4 points in fourth quarters across the series. He deferred, he faded, he became a ghost at the exact moment the game needed him most. People inside that locker room will tell you LeBron was mentally paralyzed, that the weight of everything he'd manufactured, the hype, the villain role, the promise of championships, plural, had compacted into something he couldn't lift in the fourth quarter. He wasn't injured, he wasn't outmatched physically. He was broken by the pressure of his own creation. The decision made him a villain, the celebration made him a target, and the 2011 finals made him a punchline. He eventually fixed it, won 2 in Miami, went back to Cleveland, won 1 there, but year 1 was a disaster that he built himself, brick by brick, before the season even started. The blueprint for how not to build a dynasty. LeBron wrote it himself. Kevin Garnett arrived in Brooklyn in the summer of 2013 as a legend, chasing one last run. The Nets had traded for him and Paul Pierce in a blockbuster that stripped Boston of 2 franchise cornerstones and gave them a haul of picks and players in return. What Brooklyn gave up for the privilege: multiple first-round picks, unprotected, stretching years into the future. The Nets front office looked at a 37-year-old Garnett, a 36-year-old Pierce, and a fragile Deron Williams, and decided this was their championship window. The average age of their core was 35. In a league that runs on athleticism and explosiveness, Brooklyn assembled a team that looked like an all-star game from 2008 and hoped the basketball gods wouldn't notice. They lost in the second round to Indiana. The picks they'd surrendered to Boston became lottery selections, multiple top 5 picks that the Celtics used to rebuild into the franchise they are today. Brooklyn paid for a second-round exit with half a decade of suffering and a front office humiliation that became a Harvard Business School case study in how not to make a trade. The most expensive second round exit in NBA history? Not even close. Kevin Garnett, before Brooklyn, before the Celtics, the KG, who was still the most dominant power forward alive, had one year where everything came together in Minnesota. The 2003-04 Timberwolves won 58 games. Latrell Sprewell was terrorizing opponents. Sam Cassell was conducting the offense like a point guard, 15 years younger than he looked. They made the Western Conference Finals. For the first time in franchise history, KG had a team that could actually win something. Then one offseason destroyed it. Sprewell turned down a 3-year, $21 million extension, roughly $7 million per year, and said publicly that he had a family to feed. The league laughed. The PR damage was irreparable. He never played meaningful basketball again. Cassell's hip gave out, and KG, loyal, stubborn, emotionally bound to Minnesota, in a way that made no rational basketball sense, stayed. Stayed while the front office failed him, stayed while the roster decayed around him, stayed for 4 more years of nothing before Boston finally rescued him. The window was open for 1 season. One. Then it closed and didn't reopen. Sprewell had a family to feed. KG had a career to waste. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden went to the NBA Finals in 2012. They were 23, 23, and 22 years old, the youngest core to reach the finals in decades, with a decade of contention in front of them. The Oklahoma City Thunder weren't just good, they were a dynasty in waiting. 3 future MVPs, 1 franchise, 1 city that had never had anything close to this. But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming. Nobody was ready. That summer, the Thunder decided James Harden was too expensive. His asking price for a contract extension was somewhere in the 5-year, $60 million range, roughly $12 million per year. The front office passed. They traded him to Houston for Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, and draft picks, players whose combined careers didn't add up to 1 Harden season. And Harden, freed from the 6th man role that had been suffocating him in Oklahoma City, went to Houston and became one of the most unstoppable offensive players the league had ever seen. 8 scoring titles, an MVP, multiple 50-point games, a perennial contender in his own right. Oklahoma City never made the finals again. Durant eventually left. Westbrook was traded. The dynasty the Thunder had in their hands, young, cheap, generational, was dismantled by an accountant's decision. They saved the money, they lost everything else, they had the dynasty, they chose the cap space. That's not bad luck, that's a choice. Ron Artest, before the name change, before the championship in LA, was the engine of the 2003-04 Indiana Pacers, the best record in the Eastern Conference. Reggie Miller's last real shot at a ring after a career spent as the nearly man. Jermaine O'Neal in his prime, a team that had just beaten the Pistons in the conference finals the year before and looked built to finish the job. November 19th, 2004, Palace of Auburn Hills, Detroit, a regular season game against the defending champions. Ben Wallace got fouled by Artest, shoved him, and the whole thing started escalating. Artest laid down on the scorer's table, trying in his own way to de-escalate. Then a cup of beer flew from the stands and hit him, and something inside Artest snapped. He went into the stands. Steven Jackson followed. The brawl that followed, fans and players, courtside chaos, 9 players suspended, was the ugliest night in NBA history. Artest received a 73-game suspension. Jackson got 30. Jermaine O'Neal 25. The Pacers lost their 3 best players for a combined 128 games. The season was essentially over before December. Reggie Miller retired that year, ringless, watching the team that could have finally gotten him there dismantled in real time. 1 cup, 1 fan, 1 dynasty that never happened. Dirk Nowitzki won the NBA MVP award in 2007. The Dallas Mavericks won 67 games, best record in the league. Everything pointed to a championship run. The stars had aligned, the offense was efficient, the supporting cast was capable, and Dirk, at 28, was playing the best basketball of his life. Then Don Nelson walked into the building, not as a friend, as the enemy. Nelson, who had coached Dirk in Dallas, who had developed him, who understood his game better than anyone on earth, was now coaching the Golden State Warriors. The 8th seed, the team with no business being within 10 games of the Mavericks in any playoff series. Nelson knew every tendency Dirk had, every step-back trigger, every isolation preference. He built his defensive scheme specifically around what Dirk couldn't do, defend in space, guard quick guards, handle defensive switching. The Warriors swarmed him. Stephen Jackson and Jason Richardson made his life miserable on both ends. Dallas lost in 6 games, the biggest upset in playoff history at the time. The man who made Dirk great was the one who finally broke him. The mentor became the executioner. That's not basketball, that's something darker. Kevin Durant's final season with the Golden State Warriors, 2018-19, was already a slow-motion goodbye before the playoffs started. His relationship with Draymond Green had fractured publicly in November when Green berated him during a game, and it became national news. Durant was already in conversations with other teams. The Knicks, the Nets, anyone who wasn't Golden State. He was leaving. Everyone knew he was leaving. The Warriors were playing out a championship run with a man who had mentally already walked out the door. They still made the finals against Toronto, and in Game 5, Durant, who had missed most of the playoffs with a calf strain and came back too early because the pressure to prove himself was overwhelming, ruptured his Achilles, snapped it mid-drive, went down, and didn't get up. The building went quiet. Even Raptors fans, who had every reason to celebrate, went quiet. Then in Game 6, Klay Thompson tore his ACL. In the same series, 2 cornerstone players, 2 season-ending injuries, 1 finals, Golden State lost. Durant signed with Brooklyn that summer. The dynasty, 4 finals appearances, 3 championships in 5 years, ended not with a decision or a press conference, but with 2 men limping off the court in different games of the same series. Ask anyone who was there, and they'll tell you the locker room was already gone before either injury happened. The injuries just made it official. They didn't lose the dynasty. They watched it collapse from the inside out, 1 injury report at a time. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were supposed to be unstoppable. The 2019-20 Los Angeles Clippers, assembled specifically to dethrone the Lakers, specifically to win in the post-Warriors era, had the 2 most versatile two-way wings in the league on the same roster. They were the sexy pick, the team everyone pointed to and said, this is the one that wins it all. They led Denver 3-1 in the second round, 3-1, 1 win from the conference finals, and then Paul George disappeared. Not had a bad game, disappeared, averaged 9.5 points per game in games 5, 6, and 7 combined. Kawhi played limited minutes the entire series, load management again, and when the series turned, there was nobody else capable of making a play. Denver won 3 straight, the Clippers were eliminated, but here's what stings most about it. Can a super team that never actually played full speed really call itself a super team? Is load management sustainable when the postseason demands everything you have? The Clippers spent 2 years as paper contenders. They never played a full season. They never played a full playoff series at full capacity, and they lost when it mattered in the most humiliating way possible, blowing a 3-1 lead to a team led by Nikola Jokic before Nikola Jokic was Nikola Jokic. Load management became the punchline. The Clippers became the evidence. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, the 2020-21 Brooklyn Nets Big Three, were the most feared collection of offensive talent assembled since the 2003-04 Lakers. Maybe more feared. 3 players who could each score 40 on any given night on the same team in the same city. The league had never seen anything like it, and it lasted intact for approximately 1 playoff series against Milwaukee in the second round. Harden, who had been managing a hamstring issue for weeks, lasted 4 minutes of game 1 before hobbling off the court. He played the rest of the series on one leg, clearly diminished, clearly unable to do what he does. Brooklyn lost, and Harden's window of usefulness in Brooklyn was essentially over before it fully opened. He demanded out the following February. Gone to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, a player who by that point was so psychologically fractured he couldn't make a free throw without flinching. But what happened next? Nobody could have scripted it. Nobody wanted to watch it. Kyrie Irving refused to get vaccinated and spent half the season ineligible to play home games due to New York's mandate. He missed 35 games in 1 year. Not injured, available, just absent by choice. And KD, the one guy who showed up every single night, who put up historic numbers, who was carrying a franchise on his back, watched his teammates self-destruct in ways that had nothing to do with basketball. The story that never made headlines is how isolated Durant was inside that locker room. 3 superstars on the same team, and 2 of them were somewhere else, one on one leg, One ideologically checked out, while KD played the best basketball of his career to a team that couldn't stay together long enough to matter. The most talented roster of the era, one healthy playoff series, then rubble. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce played one season in Brooklyn. The Nets lost in the second round, and then the bill came due. Brooklyn had surrendered multiple unprotected first-round picks to Boston in the original trade. Picks with no lottery protection, meaning no matter how bad the Nets got, those picks went to Boston, and the Nets got bad, fast. From 2014 to 2019, Brooklyn was a lottery team, sending top 5 picks to the Celtics. Those picks helped Boston build a young core that became Eastern Conference contenders. The Nets had no first-rounders to develop, no assets to trade, and a payroll still paying off the ghost of a team that hadn't won anything. Half a decade of irrelevance, directly funded by one trade, one second-round exit, one desperate swing at a championship window that was already closed before it opened. The most expensive loss in NBA history didn't happen in the finals. It happened in May, in Brooklyn, in the second round, with a team too old to recover from it. They paid for one second-round exit with 5 years of nothing. The math never made sense. Nobody checked it. Kevin Durant demanded a trade from Brooklyn in June 2022. By February 2023, the Nets had traded KD, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, 3 future Hall of Famers assembled over 3 years. All of them gone for pennies on the dollar, in returns that no contending team would have accepted. KD to Phoenix for Michael Bridges and a pile of picks. Kyrie to Dallas for Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. Harden already gone the year before. Ben Simmons, who never played a meaningful game in Brooklyn, was still on the roster, still collecting his max contract, still a symbol of everything that went wrong. 3 years, 3 superstars, 3 trades, 0 rings, and a franchise reset so complete that by February 2023, they were essentially starting over from scratch. In a market where stars want to play, with ownership that was willing to spend, with a fan base that had been promised everything and received nothing. The version that never made the press release is how badly the front office mismanaged every relationship in that locker room. KD and Kyrie had different visions for what Brooklyn was supposed to be. The front office let both visions exist simultaneously until they collapsed against each other. Nobody forced the issue. Nobody made the hard call. They just let it rot. 3 Hall of Famers walked into Brooklyn. 3 Hall of Famers walked out with no ring. The franchise got the rebuild it was always headed for. It just cost them 3 years and every ounce of credibility to get there. They assembled the dynasty, then they watched it leave through 3 different exits. So here's the answer to the question that's been hanging since that first chapter. Was there a moment inside the 2003-04 Lakers, inside any of these teams, when someone looked at what they were building and knew it was already over? Yes. And the answer is the same for every team in this video. The moment they stopped building and started hoping. The moment they decided that assembling names was the same as assembling a team. The Lakers had 4 Hall of Famers and a civil war. The Heat had 3 stars and LeBron's psychological paralysis. The Nets had KG and Pierce and a combined age that belonged in a retirement league. Oklahoma City had a dynasty and chose cap space. The Pacers had the East and lost it to a cup of beer. Dallas had the MVP and the mentor who knew how to stop him. Golden State had a dynasty and watched it end on 2 separate stretchers. The Clippers had 2 wings and loaded management excuses. The Nets again, twice, had the big 3 and then the rubble. Every single one of these teams had the pieces. None of them had the glue. And the glue, the thing that actually holds championship teams together, isn't talent. It's not payroll. It's not Hall of Fame credentials. It's the willingness to sacrifice something you want for something the team needs. And on every team in this video, somebody, one person, sometimes more, refused to make that sacrifice when the moment came. Shaq wanted out. LeBron wanted the spotlight without the pressure. Sproul wanted $21 million more. Oklahoma City's front office wanted the cap room. Artest couldn't walk away from a cup. Don Nelson couldn't help himself. KD was already gone before the injury. Kawhi wanted the minutes managed. Kyrie wanted the exemption. And Brooklyn's front office wanted all 3 stars without ever forcing the hard conversation that would have told them whether all 3 stars actually wanted each other. Super teams don't implode because of bad luck. They implode because building one requires a level of ego management that almost nobody in the history of professional basketball has been able to sustain. The ones that work: the Spurs, the 2010-13 Heat after year one, the Warriors before the KD era, had someone, somewhere, willing to eat something they didn't want to eat. Every team in this video had too many people unwilling to touch the plate. The ghost of every one of these super teams isn't in the trophy case. It's in the what ifs, and the what ifs are always louder than the rings.